Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, HP.Brittany Travel. Today we're talking about my recent voyage on the Carnival Venezia. I was on this ship back in July 4th to the 16th of 2024. And before I get into the nitty-gritty about the things that I noticed on this ship, I wanted to give some background to those who may not be as familiar with it. Carnival Venezia did join Carnival's fleet back in May 29, 2023. It took a 15-day transatlantic journey from Barcelona to where it currently resides in New York, Manhattan's cruise terminal. The ship itself offers a diverse range of itineraries, including 22 unique options with visits to 25 ports across 14 countries, with a capacity for 5,145 guests and 1,393 crew members. Carnival Venezia boasts an Italian-inspired design and amenities, including new food and beverage options like La Strada Grill, Tomodoro, Amari, and Frizzante. Guests can also enjoy new entertainment spaces like the Gondola Lounge, Carnival Bar and Lounge, as well as activities such as the Italian Street Party, Captain's Venetian Toast, and the Italian-inspired youth programming. Carnival Venezia will also feature many of the popular activities and experience found on other Carnival ships, so Carnival fans, don't be too worried. It does include Carnival Waterworks, Piano Bar 88, Heroes Tribute Lounge, Fahrenheit 555, Steakhouse, Bonsai Sushi, Bonsai Teppanyaki, Guy's Burger Joint, Cloud9 Salon and Spa, Serenity Adult Only Retreat, and of course the Dr. Seuss Book Fair. Now that we've discussed the history of the Carnival Venezia, let's dive right into the voyage I experienced on this ship back in July of 2024. I started this adventure on Manhattan Terminal Port at Pier 88. And luckily, this whole voyage was a back-to-back cruise session for me. So back-to-back cruising, for those that may not be aware, is when you stay on a ship for back-to-back legs of a cruise. Others may consider back-to-back cruising if they are staying near the port and they get off one ship and then get on another one immediately the next day. But in this case, I stayed on the same ship for 12 days. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But arriving at Pier 88 in Manhattan, for those who might expect, Manhattan, New York, extremely busy area. So I recommend those, especially those driving to the port or getting there the day of Embarkation. You do want to arrive early. Yes, we all have our times that the Carnival assigns us when we do our check-ins, but this is a very populated area and traffic does get backed up, especially as the morning progresses. When I boarded the ship, we had an early check-in, so we got there about an hour before just to make sure we had everything checked out and we were good and we were able to get up onto the ship. We did have to wait a little bit. They do board everyone based on starting with status and then goes into the specific boarding groups. I do recommend maybe bringing a snack if you do get there very early. There are not many options in the pier, but it's generally pretty clean and it is quite difficult to hear over the loudspeaker, especially when there's more people at the pier getting there for check-in. Pier 88 also houses security dogs that do check luggage when you arrive, especially for check-in. At least that is what was witnessed when I was there. Any luggage that you're carrying on you, jackets, backpacks, purses, they will have you put them on the floor in front of you and they will ask you to stand behind your luggage. They will then have the security dogs do a sweep and they will grab the bags that the dogs bring to their concern. So just an FYI, make sure we're making safe choices when we're getting on the ship. But in addition to that, after going through and having that security measure, getting on the ship was a breeze. Most people who are frequent cruisers tend to go right to the buffet, and it is mostly opened. Carnival also, going out of New York, the Cheers package doesn't start till the first day at sea. So the day you're embarking, if you do get the Cheers package, the drink package, or the Bubbles package, they do not start until the second day, the day after Embarkation. So just to be aware, if you are buying drinks, the staff will be writing down receipts for you, which then are connected to your room. They'll ask for your room number. Typically, you cannot get down to your stateroom until 1:30. There you will find your stateroom C cards, and they will have your number on them, your invoice number. So as the cruise progresses, that is the number that they would use attached to your account. If you go into the Carnival Hub app, you can track your spending and etc. But just FYI, as I reiterate, the Cheers package does not start until after the first night at sea. So day 1 is Embarkation. Day 2, the next morning you wake up, Cheers package begins. So now that we've talked about the Cheers package, check-in, Embarkation in general, stateroom check-in, all those little things, the buffet. We did touch a little bit on the buffet. There are certain areas of the buffet that are opened. I mean, they are still cleaning some areas after the individuals that got off in the morning. So sometimes they only have 2 of the sections fully open. But the buffet itself, they typically have an Italian food section. And on the opposite side, you'll find more of your burgers, hot dogs, things like that. And then they have a little grill where you can get things like Reubens, clubs, ham and cheese sandwiches. And then there's a dessert area right behind there. And then they do have beer dispensers. If you, on the second day, you go up to that draft system and you can get one of, I think it's 2 or 3 beers that they have on tap there. But that's another way. If you are seeking beer and don't want to wait at the bars throughout the day, there's a quick way to refill your beer. The food overall in the buffet is pretty good. They do change it up as the week goes on. But it's definitely a good way to get a quick snack after if you've been waiting all morning at check-in. On the back-to-back cruise that I took, I went to the ports in Bermuda, Amber Cove of the Dominican, Grand Turk, and Half Moon Cay. Amber Cove has a partnership with Carnival at their port, and then Half Moon Cay is one of Carnival's islands in the Bahamas. This cruise, I'd say, comes pretty highly recommended for those residing on the East Coast. As I said, most people probably drive to New York from Jersey, Boston, Pennsylvania, all neighboring states. So those on the East Coast that are seeking an adventure without needing flights, especially to other cruise ports in Florida, Texas, or to the West Coast so they can go to the Caribbean, this is a feasible option for certain cruisers that are seeking that type of trip. The ship itself offers an abundance of activities, as I stated before, that are similar to all Carnival ships, although I would say that the pool areas can get very crowded due to limited seating, especially in the center of the vessel. Some passengers tend to reserve seats, which, I mean, we probably experience this anywhere, at a resort, at a hotel, on the beach, but some passengers do tend to reserve these seats and not return to them. So that can be a little bit frustrating, and especially for those that are not necessarily morning early risers. Sometimes it'll be difficult to find seats immediately on those sea days if your specific voyage has a sea day. But otherwise, I would say that the helpful and accommodating staff, the food, and the unique specialty dining experiences did make up for those minor drawbacks. The entertainment overall was very lovely. The cruise director on my voyage was Mark Q. He was very personable. He went out of his way and spoke to people when he was on deck, and he was a great host. He held the 80s party, the white party. He hosted the Love and Marriage show. They have a Family Feud show. It's very cool. But in addition to that, the Carnival Venezia also has an epic rock show, and they have a few others, especially one that involves color. That was a very interesting one. It was very cool, and I definitely recommend. In addition to the entertainment, I do say that the main dining rooms were stunning. They offered consistent meals with varied menus. So like each night may have had a different theme, but they also still have those consistent choices, or I guess fan favorites, on their menus. So let's go back and talk about back-to-back cruising. So on this particular voyage, I did say I was there from the 4th to the 16th, which was 12 days. The first leg of my voyage was the 4th through the 8th, and that is when we went to Bermuda. So we had a sea day after the embarkation day. We're at Bermuda, had a sea day coming back, and then we disembarked. On the disembarkation day, I luckily booked the same stateroom and was able to just leave everything as I had it in my stateroom. I just had to bring my passport, my sea pass with me, and then they told us where to meet. They gave us a letter, specific location. On this specific voyage, we met at the Marco Polo restaurant, which is on deck 3, where you typically board the ship. And then from there, they escorted us, after everyone else was off the ship, down to customs. We had to get off because they do need to make sure that the ship does get down to 0% of passengers, staff, and etc. as a security measures. But when we went down to customs, we walked off, and then we had to go up. They took a new little security shot of ourselves, looked at our passport, and we did a nice 360 and walked right back up the escalator. I'd say the whole process maybe took 45 minutes at most, between waiting in Marco Polo for everyone else to disembark, and then for us to walk off the ship and get back on. After that, we had roughly, I'd say it felt like an hour and a half before more passengers were let onto the ship, so we were able to go and get some other footage and walk around the ship, just have some, I guess, general space. But it was pretty cool. The second leg of the venture that I went on was that 8th through the 16th, and it was 2 sea days, and then we went to Amber Cove, Grand Turk, Half Moon Cay, and then had 2 sea days coming back. This might not be a preferred option for some that may not like that many days at sea. However, for others that like to have that break in between after doing excursions at port and then having a break before getting back and disembarking the ship, it gives you that opportunity, in addition to when having some time in between embarkation and before that first day at port. But I definitely recommend the experience if someone has the opportunity to be a back-to-back cruiser. It definitely was more feasible for me to book the same stateroom. I know not everyone has that luxury, but if you were to have separate staterooms, your stateroom steward would help you maneuver your luggage to your new stateroom, so it wouldn't have to be completely taken off that night before. You would just have to have it set and let them know, and then they would pass it on to wherever your new stateroom steward is, and that would be dependent on your communication with your stateroom steward. But overall, I think it would be a great experience for anyone, and I definitely recommend it. When reflecting on this whole voyage as a whole, if I was to use a wave system, almost like a Likert scale, saying like 1 to 4, and say out of 4 waves, I would give it a 3 out of 4. It was a great experience. I thought the theming was awesome. The food was great. The staff was great. But it does get very busy, especially I went during a major American holiday, being 4th of July, so there was probably a more capacity filled on the ship, but it definitely was a great experience, and I would not hesitate to get back on the Carnival Venezia for possibly a different voyage, something in the future. But for the ports that I went to and the experiences I had, I definitely recommend. Thank you for listening to this vlog from HP.Brittany Travel.